Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica and today I'm doing a little bit of a different video. I'm filming a Q&A, so I'm going to be sitting down and answering some of your most frequently asked questions. This is a long overdue video. I've been meaning to sit down and film this for a really long time now, and I think I've just found some inspiration recently because I moved into a new place. So I'm currently living in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's just really nice to have that sense of stability again after spending this past year traveling. And having a home base is something that I've been wanting for a really long time, so I feel really grounded and comfortable as of right now, so I'm kind of just going with it and figured now would be a really good time to allow you to get to know me a little bit better rather than just knowing me as a voice behind a screen. So I'm really excited to sit down and be filming this video. So most of these questions I've received through Instagram. I realized there was like a common pattern behind most of them. They're very repetitive, and so I wanted to just do a video where I answer all of them, and I'll include it in a blog post as well, so I'll link that below for you to check out if you're interested. But yeah, let's just dive right into it. How/when did you start your yoga journey? I started practicing yoga at my home, actually. I downloaded an app on my phone called a yoga studio, and it was really great because it had content geared towards beginners, intermediate, and advanced, and so I could kind of like work my way up. At the time, I was completely new. I had no idea about anything yoga related, didn't know about the postures, didn't know how to sequence, didn't know about sun salutations or breathing or anything like that. So I really did start from the beginning. I also was using YouTube a lot. It's just one of the reasons why I'm really passionate about offering free classes online, because that's how I got started practicing yoga, and I know how beneficial it was for me. This was back in February 2015, and I was living at home with my parents. Actually, I had just left school and was working part-time at a retail job and didn't have a lot of money. I could really only afford to practice at home, so I know how beneficial it is to have those free resources. My parents actually bought me my first yoga mat, and it was for Christmas, and I remember it took me like 2 months to finally unroll my mat and to use it. And yeah, it's just funny thinking back to those times, but I had my home practice for 3 years before finally going to a real studio. So that's kind of like how I got started. What prompted you to start yoga to begin with, and how did you decide that you wanted to become a yoga instructor? Well, I talked about this a little bit in the last question, but right before I started practicing yoga, I was living at home and I had just dropped out of college. I was going through a little bit of an internal struggle, having trouble figuring out who I was and what I wanted to do in life, and the transition that I was going through from being in college and being back home. I was experiencing a lot of anxiety and didn't really know how to handle that in a healthy way. And at the time, I was struggling with depression. I didn't know it back then, but I eventually went to see a therapist who helped me kind of deal with that on its own. It was my dad who actually encouraged me to start practicing yoga. At the time, I had heard of it, but I had never tried it before. And so that's what got me into the practice, and it's really helped me to deal with some of those internal struggles, and it's really helped my mental health in so many ways. And that's also kind of what got me into wanting to become a teacher, was wanting to share this practice that has shifted my life in so many ways and wanting to just share that with everyone around me. Yeah, so after about 3 years of practicing yoga at home, I decided I wanted to go to the next level, I guess, or kind of just learn more about the practice, dig a little bit deeper, because I knew at that point that there was more to it than just the physical component of asana. I knew that there was more to it than just doing yoga on the mat. I knew that there was deeper philosophy, and so I wanted to do a training to learn more about that. So that's how I kind of got into my path of being a yoga teacher. Do you practice yoga every day? And if so, how do you incorporate it into your daily routine? This is a really great question. So my practice has changed a lot over the past 5 years. I would say the first half of my practice, the first 2.5 to 3 years, I would say, was very much based on physical asanas. When I first started practicing, I was very motivated, very consistent, very inspired, and I would get on my mat every single day, but I was mostly practicing power and vinyasa yoga. So it's a very heated, strong practice. So you can imagine over the course of 3 years, practicing every day, what that does to your body and your mental health. And I actually started to feel really burnt out and tired, started to feel just really unmotivated in my practice. It started to feel more like a chore rather than something that I enjoy doing or would look forward to doing. Actually, around this time, around 3 years into my practice, that's when I kind of went into my yoga teacher training path, because I felt like I was just craving something more other than just practicing the physical postures. After that, I was learning about the philosophy of yoga, the 8 limbs, and I was learning about restorative yoga and yin yoga, and it was such a beautiful thing because I was able to balance out my practice. So rather than just having the physical component, I was really practicing more of the philosophy and more of the like subtle components of yoga. So over the years, I've kind of learned how to maintain that balance in my practice. So long story short, I don't practice physical asana every single day, but I do practice yoga every day. So meaning if I don't do physical practice one day, then I will probably do meditation or pranayama or something along those lines. I am basically a big believer in the fact that yoga can be practiced both on and off the mat. Just incorporate it into my daily routine by making it a priority. So usually first thing I do in the morning is I'll unroll my mat and just move and stretch, or just really listen to my body. Sometimes all I need is stillness or silence, so I will just sit and meditate. But yeah, so don't practice every day, and I basically just make yoga a priority both on and off the mat. The next few questions kind of fall under the category of teaching yoga, so I'm going to go ahead and share those now. What tips would you give someone wanting to become a yoga teacher? So first and foremost, I would recommend just having a consistent self-practice, particularly if you're going into a teacher training that is intensive, so it's over like the course of a month and you're doing yoga every day. I think it's really important to have a strong physical practice in that aspect. And then just do your research on teacher trainings. Find a style of yoga that you really like or a teacher that you really resonate with, and then go learn from them, go study from them. And then after your training, keep on practicing. I find this is so important, especially if you are new to teaching. Don't stop your own self-practice. Just get really clear on your intentions as to why you want to teach. So what do you want to offer everybody? Do you want to teach at a studio? Do you want to offer privates? Maybe you want to do both. It's also helpful to think of what your niche is. So do you want to offer yoga to everyone, or do you want to target a small audience? Maybe you just want to teach yoga for beginners, or yoga for stay-at-home moms, yoga for kids. So it's really important to be clear on your specific intentions when going into a yoga teacher training, and even afterwards, after when you're done. And if you do happen to find a studio that you really like and you're thinking that you want to teach at, see if you can come into some of the classes to assist, or even audition so that you can eventually get on the sub list and start teaching. I think it's really important, especially as new teachers who are wanting to go the route of teaching in studios, to get involved in the community right away and to meet new people, make those social connections so that it's easier to teach at a studio. And the last tip I will offer is don't be afraid to use social media. I think that some teachers are hesitant to get on social media because it is a little quote unquote untraditional, but social media has so many opportunities there for you. You can reach a wider range of people, there's a bigger audience, and I just think it's a really great way to market yourself, market your classes, market what you're offering. Yoga is constantly changing, constantly evolving, just as technology is, and I think it's a great tool to use to our advantage. Okay, so the next question is, how do you build confidence in starting to teach? Practice, practice, practice. A great way to build confidence as a teacher just starting out is to offer donation-based classes. You could even teach to your friends or family members, anyone who is willing or open or wanting to try yoga. Just teach to as many people as you can, just practice. For the very first class that I taught during my yoga teacher training, I think it was a 60-minute class. I basically just memorized that class and started teaching that same class over and over again to different people. Eventually got really confident in that one class and was able to kind of build off of that. So I was able to add different poses, change the sequencing a little bit, so that I just got really comfortable with teaching the postures, the sequencing, the cueing. So that's another great way to kind of help build up confidence. What are the yoga teacher training courses that you have completed? Well, I have done 500 hours total. The first 200 hours that I did was in my hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina, and that was at a studio called Enlightened Yoga, which I highly recommend if you're in that area checking out. It's the very first yoga studio that I went to, and I just right away really connected with the teachers there and just their style and way of teaching. So I ended up doing my 200 hours there, and it was over the course of, I think it was 6 months. We met once a week. Once a month for over the course of 6 months, and loved it. I mean, I can't even describe it. It was such a transformative experience that I really do recommend anyone out there who feels the calling to do a teacher training to do it. Even if you don't feel like you want to teach, if you just want to do the training for yourself, for your own practice, I just really recommend it. And then I did my 300-hour training just this past October. That was in India. It was in Goa, India, at a place called Kranti Yoga, and I chose this place in particular because I was wanting a place where I could study Yin Yoga and Vinyasa Yoga, and this was one of the few places in India that I found offered both of those courses at the time and kind of like price range that I was looking at. I really enjoyed my time there. This was an intensive program, so it was a month-long course. I was practicing yoga every day and just really immersing myself in the culture, and yeah, I really recommend that as well if you're thinking about doing a 300-hour and you already have your 200-hour. And I'm actually thinking about going back to Kranti and doing some more continuing education. I want to learn more about Hatha yoga and to get more into the subtle body practices. So I'm really excited about that. Do you have any tips for starting and building a yoga Instagram account? So I think it's really important, if you are intentionally wanting to build an online presence, to do it in a way that is mindful. Instagram is a lot different from what it was 5 years ago, which is when I first joined, and I know that it will continue to change, even beyond just the algorithm. It's constantly changing in so many ways, and I know it's very hard to keep up with, but I will just share 4 quick tips on how to organically grow your Instagram account. So my first tip for you is to find your intention, which I mentioned a little bit early on. But yeah, if you know that your niche is yoga, then you can kind of think about what kind of content you want to create from there. Do you want to have an account that is focused solely on teaching? So do you want to create tutorials or videos? or maybe you want an account that has yoga and a mix of lifestyle photos, or maybe you specifically want an account just for your business. And if so, how do you want to create your brand? What do you want people to recognize and know you for? So these are all really important questions to kind of ask yourself when you're starting out an account for the first time and you're just looking to grow your page. So my second tip, once you have your intention and your niche down, is just be consistent. And this goes as far as consistent with your types of content and consistent with the amount of times that you post. And this is especially important if you are new or your account is new, because that'll drive traffic to your page and it'll kind of give people an idea of how often you post. So if you have a consistent posting schedule, then people will know to come to your page, check out your new content. Inconsistency brings lack of engagement, so just keep that in mind. Tip number 3 is to build a community. Find people on Instagram who inspire you, who you really resonate with, and just start to engage with them. Like and comment on their posts, send them a DM. Don't be afraid to reach out to them. You could see if they even want to collaborate with you. Maybe you can work together in creating some courses, or you can host Instagram challenges together. And these are all really great ways to build trust and an online presence when you're in the yoga community online. So my fourth and final tip for creating and growing your Instagram account is to simply be yourself. Don't try to strive for something that you're not. Don't try to strive for perfection. When you are being your truest, most honest, authentic self, it really does shine through in what you create online, if that makes sense. So it's always best just to be yourself, and I mean, it makes you seem more real and human, and people really like that. They find it more relatable, and I think it's really nice when people share stories in their captions, more personal things. Of course, it's totally up to you how much you want to share or not share, but just something to keep in mind. What apps do you use to edit your photos and videos? I use an app called Video Shop to edit and speed up my videos that I post on Instagram, and I also use that app to put music on as well. And then I'll use an app called Snapseed, and I also use Visco for photo editing. And then for YouTube videos, I just use iMovie. Okay, so last question I'm going to answer for this video. What are some of your dreams or plans for the future? So I obviously want to continue teaching and learning yoga. It's such a big part of my life that I really can't imagine doing anything else. And I know that it'll always play a key role in my life. But eventually, I think I would like to become a health coach or get some kind of certification with health. I'm also really interested in learning more about Ayurveda, so I can see that being something I do in the future. And of course, I have big love, big passion for traveling, so I want to continue to do my retreats and to continue teaching internationally. And my boyfriend and I have dreams of opening up our own retreat center one day, possibly. And I've just started thinking about starting my own retreat company. So those are kind of all things that are in the works right now. That is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for tuning in. Hopefully you learned something new about me. If you have any questions that I didn't answer in this video, feel free to comment below and I will reply to you. Again, thank you so much for watching, for following me on this channel, for practicing yoga with me. It really does mean a lot to know you guys appreciate these videos and follow along to them and share them with your friends and family. So thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will hopefully see you in the next yoga class. Namaste.